Hello, and welcome to Life Matters, the program where we engage life issues with critical thinking and a biblical worldview. Life Matters is an educational outreach resource of Assure Women's Center in Omaha, Nebraska. We're honored to host a variety of guests within the pro-life movement, each bringing their own unique perspectives, experiences, and backgrounds. The views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Life Matters, Assure Women's Center, or our affiliates. Our goal is to foster open, thoughtful dialogue around life-affirming issues and equip listeners to stand for life.
Welcome to Life Matters. I'm your host, Tony Clark, Executive Director of Assure Women's Center in Omaha. Today, we're welcoming back a familiar voice, Nate Grasz, Executive Director of Nebraska Family Alliance. Nate joined us earlier this year to talk about key pro-life legislation under consideration. Today, we're following up to hear how the 2025 session unfolded and what's ahead for life-affirming policies in Nebraska. Nate, welcome back.
Thanks, Tony. I'm excited to be back.
Oh, it's good. It's always good to have you. You're one of my favorite guests. So, Nate, when we last spoke, we discussed LB 669, LB 632, and LB 214. Can you give us a recap on what each of these bills were?
Yeah, so these were each pro-life bills that were introduced to the Nebraska legislature this year that we were glad to help support, all really aimed at trying to help build a culture of life in Nebraska and to save more babies from abortion. And so LB 669 was a bill that was aimed at helping assist women who are in abusive or trafficking situations, which we know, and you know, Tony, is unfortunately very common in the context of abortion. And so this bill would require abortion clinics to actually have to screen for signs of abuse, domestic violence, and trafficking before an abortion could be performed, and to provide the pregnant woman the domestic violence and human trafficking hotline numbers and the opportunity to make a confidential phone call. And so that was a really important bill that was brought this year. You also mentioned LB 632. And this bill would prevent abortion clinics from treating the bodies of unborn babies like medical waste that can then be thrown in the trash.
Wow.
It's a very dark aspect of the abortion industry that oftentimes is out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of abortion, is that those babies are labeled as medical waste. And so this bill would require the bodies of unborn babies to be given that basic human dignity of burial or cremation. And I think really start challenging people to think about this issue differently and how we view life in the womb. And then that last bill you mentioned, LB 214, would allow safe haven baby boxes, which are padded, temperature-controlled devices that have motion sensors and alarm systems to be installed at fire stations in Nebraska, which would then provide women or parents in crisis the option of anonymous surrender of a newborn infant, which we currently don't have in Nebraska. And so that was another bill we helped support, really to trying to expand that safety net for women and families in our state.
Good. All three of those bills are, I think, very much needed. I think about the young ladies that we serve. We certainly do screen for those that are being sex trafficked. And I would say we've had a few girls that have come through and, try to help them as much as we can. And so who wouldn't want to do that? Who wouldn't want, to be able to be a safe place for that young lady? And just so grateful for you all, trying to help that young lady who is most vulnerable at that particular time. So, well, during the session, what happened with each of these bills?
Yeah, well, Tony, we're so thankful for you and Assure and those who are serving on the front lines, helping women and families and advocating for them and for their children. And, this is one area in public policy that we can try to help support the work that's being done in our state and to affirm the dignity of life in the law. And this year, there were a lot of ups and downs, a lot of twists and turns, and it's a process to pass a bill into law in Nebraska. Each bill has to go through a committee hearing and a committee process, and then through 3 separate rounds of debate. And so each of these bills, we saw some progress. Unfortunately, they didn't advance all the way through into law. But LB 669, the trafficking and abuse screening bill, was advanced from our Judiciary Committee on a 5-1 vote, as well as LB 632 to require unborn babies to have that dignity of burial or cremation. And that bill actually got debated by the full legislature, and it advanced through the first round of debate on a vote of 33-13. Now, Nebraska, we have 49 state senators. That's it. But we have a very high filibuster threshold. So if a bill is being filibustered, and believe it or not, this bill was, it was vehemently opposed by the abortion lobby and others. And so we needed 33 votes. We had 33 exactly, so we were able to get it through that first round of debate. And then some senators started to, reconsider their position. There were a lot of conversations about different amendments people wanted, and ultimately the legislature ran out of time. They had 90 days this session, and so that bill got through the first round, but still has 2 more to go. So there was a lot left undone this session, but the good news is that these bills will all carry over into next year. And so we'll be able to revisit them and hopefully advance them throughout the remaining process.
Okay, that's good to know that it didn't just die, that there's still hope for those, that they will come back and continue to go through. It's just hard for me to understand how someone would not want to treat an aborted baby. I think about a woman that has a miscarriage. When she has a miscarriage, that's a baby, and just boggles my mind how we can just throw away babies. It's just hard to understand, hard to comprehend. Wow. So one of the bills that may have flown under the radar was LB 709, which introduced a new adoption tax credit and ultimately passed. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and why it matters?
Yeah, this is a really great bill, and one that we're really excited about and thankful that did pass all the way into law this year. And this bill creates a new pro-life adoption tax credit in Nebraska. And so currently, if parents adopt a child, there is a federal adoption tax credit. And now, thanks to LB 709, which was amended into a larger revenue package that passed into law, those families will also be able to claim a state income tax credit that's equal to a portion of the federal adoption tax credit. And the reason this matters, is just we think about what our society could look like if, rather than promoting or funding abortion, we were promoting and funding adoption. And so this is about, providing that tangible assistance and financial support to families who are making that courageous and loving decision to adopt a child. And it's also communicating something, in our state, to our culture, that, we're going to support those families and those parents who are giving a child a loving forever home. And so it's just one more way that we can build that culture of life and support families and children.
That's good. And of course, people don't, adopt babies so that they get a tax credit, but it's just good to have something that, says, hey, we thank you for what you're doing, and we encourage you in that area. So that's awesome. That's awesome. So what would you consider the biggest pro-life wins of this legislative session?
Yeah, I think getting the adoption tax credit is a great step and a great thing for our state. LB 632 that we talked about, it does kind of defy common sense that a bill like that, just providing that basic human dignity, couldn't advance all the way. But with the opposition that we encountered to that bill, getting it out of committee and through the first round of debate is a great step. And that bill is still alive and can come back next year and hopefully move all the way through. And one more that we haven't mentioned yet. LB 213 was another bill in our education committee that would actually require schools to have science standards to teach
Mhm.
children the truth of human development from conception.
Mhm.
Just the human embryology that we see inside the womb. And I think that's a very a powerful idea. And that bill did advance out of our education committee. So that was important, and that's something we'll be able to hopefully push through next year as well. So there was a lot that didn't get accomplished, but there were some steps taken in the right direction that laid a good foundation that we can build off of going forward.
Yeah, I like the LB 213. And just think about it. We're starting to educate children at an earlier age about the development of life. They will be pro life because they will know they will have learned about life and the cycle of life earlier on in their education. That's awesome. So, were there any disappointments or bills that didn't make it across the finish line that you kind of go, man, I wish that I wish we could change that.
Yeah, I mean, we wish each of these bills, these were all really important opportunities. Our legislative process, things get narrowed down very
Mhm.
quickly. There's hundreds and hundreds of bills that get introduced, but senators only get one priority bill and they have a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
And so it was unfortunate the way things unfolded that we didn't see more progress.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, we hope that these bills are something that we can come back to next year and get across the finish line because this issue is too important,
Yeah.
and we have to keep finding ways to support and protect life, and it takes all of us. We all have a role to play, and we need people who are engaging and speaking out and using the influence that each of us has to help advocate for the unborn.
Nate, what are the major roadblocks or challenges that you seem to encounter this last year, but just in general, what are those major roadblocks and challenges you face?
Yeah, it's a great question. Specifically in our legislature, the time is a big factor, as well as just the really thin margins
Mhm.
due to the makeup of the legislature right now. Make it difficult to
Mhm.
advance good pro life policies just due to the party affiliations and the ideologies and the conflicting agendas that are unfolding in our state capital. But beyond that, there is still certainly just a very high level of bad information and fear that's coming from the abortion lobby and pro-choice advocates and even pro-choice physicians who are feeding into these false narratives that this is going to take away health care from women or all these consequences that we know just simply aren't true. We can love and support both women and their unborn children. That's what we're committed to. We know that's what you're committed to. And so we need to keep educating, keep speaking the truth, and doing everything that we can to find ways to protect life and advance good policy.
Good, good. Do you have any stories that perhaps encouraged you where the grassroots have shown up?
Yeah, yeah. In Nebraska, right, the people are the second house. We have a unicameral legislature, so we just have one house, and it's up to the people of Nebraska to be the second house, to be that voice. And we were thankful for all the support that we saw throughout this year's session. Um, the committee hearing for LB 669 to require that screening for abuse and trafficking. There were a lot of people who stepped forward, even some very courageous women who came forward to share their stories and their experiences, and that really helped advance that bill out of committee to take that step. And so it really makes a big difference when people are willing to use their voice to share their stories, their personal experiences, and let senators know the issues that are important to you and ultimately how you want them to vote as your representative.
Yeah, our voices are very important. I've testified a time or two in the past, and yeah, it can be a little unnerving, but I know sometimes it's necessary because people need to hear the people's voices.
Life Matters is the program where we engage life issues with critical thinking and a biblical worldview, and it is a ministry of Assure Women's Center. Assure Women's Center is a nationally recognized pro-life pregnancy center based in Omaha, Nebraska. Did you know that you can connect with Life Matters online? You can find all of our previous episodes to review for yourself or share with the people in your life by visiting firststeptolife.com/Life Matters, or on Facebook at First Step to Life Omaha. Sharing our episodes and encouraging us with a positive comment is a completely free way that you can help us get the pro-life message out to more people.
So welcome back to Life Matters. I'm here with Nate Grasz from Nebraska Family Alliance, and we're digging into what's next for life issues in our state after the 2025 session. Nate, again, thanks for being with me today. Looking ahead to the 2026 session and possibly the ballot, what major life or freedom issues are on the horizon?
Yeah, there is so much, at play here. And thankfully, as we talked about, the bills that we mentioned do carry over into next year's session. So we'll be able to come back to those and build off of some of the good things that did happen this year. And there'll also be new opportunities for senators to introduce new legislation. And we're also working in support of a bill to protect the medical conscience rights of doctors and nurses in Nebraska to not be forced or coerced to participate in procedures that violate their conscience. But we know that, this issue is not going away, certainly from the other side as well. And so we would not be surprised to see more efforts trying to take our state the other direction and seeking to expand abortion or to create a right to abortion in Nebraska. We faced that in the 2024 election. Thankfully, that initiative to create a right to abortion was defeated.
Yeah.
But we also saw it receive 49%. It was 1 percentage point away from passing. And so that's kind of the framework, the reality of where we're operating. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done culturally, not just in the legislative process, but also finding ways to help educate and change hearts and minds as well.
Good. So you mentioned that senators may have the opportunity to present other bills. Do you anticipate any new pro-life legislation being introduced in the next year?
Yeah, that's something we're going to be working really hard on, between now and next year's session. And we do hope to see more new pro-life legislation introduced next year. As we talked about, there was a lot left undone. And so we're going to have more opportunities next year to find a way forward. And we hope that some new pro-life bills can be a part of that equation.
Okay, so we just need to stay ready to support you when they come up. Absolutely. So how are national trends influencing what's happening here in Nebraska?
Yeah, that's a really important question. Certainly we're not immune, even in Nebraska, to things and trends that are happening nationally. We're continuing to see, just how much of a challenge and problem the abortion pill is, and that is continued to grow as the abortion industry moves that direction, and we need to find ways to combat that. We're helping support efforts right now at the federal level in Congress to actually defund Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry of taxpayer dollars. That's a really important opportunity that we have right now. But even here specifically, kind of to our region in the Midwest, recently we've seen several different Planned Parenthood clinics close in some surrounding states, which is great news. The challenge, the bad news, is that they're still operating right in Omaha and in Lincoln. And so that could mean more women from out of state coming to the Planned Parenthood clinics in Nebraska seeking an abortion. And so, those are some things that are happening right now that really kind of put us in the crosshairs here in Nebraska. And so, like you talked about, we do need everybody to be a part of this, whether that's contacting your senator, whether that's actually running for public office, and that's also supporting pregnancy help organizations like Assure, and providing that tangible love and care to women and families in need, and to be praying for life to be protected in our state.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. What can people do now to prepare for next year's legislative session? You've already given a couple things. Is there anything else that you would specifically say that we can be doing to prepare for the next session?
Yeah, well, I think what's important for people to know, right, is that while the legislature is adjourned for the year, our work and our role that each of us has to continue. Absolutely, the most important thing everyone can be doing is to pray. To actually pray and to petition the Lord for lives to be saved in our state, to continue to pray for our elected officials, for our state senators, for those who God has placed in positions of authority, that they would have wisdom and courage to protect life, and then to be active. Nebraska is not Washington, D.C. You can contact your senator and they will respond. You can email them, you can call them, you can ask to meet with them. And it matters to them when their constituents, someone from their district is contacting them, who wants to meet with them, who wants them to know what issues matter to them. Share what your thoughts are on these bills. It can make a huge difference. And it's something, that we can't neglect or outsource. We need to be active and engaged, and utilizing the calling that God has given to us, and taking advantage of the role that we have here in Nebraska to be that second house and to make our voices heard.
Good. I like the fact that you talk about prayer. I know here at Assure, prayer is so important for us. We actually have people that will come and walk through our building and pray. And so I'm sure that's something that people could do as well. They can walk through the Capitol, even if we're not in session. They can walk through and pray in those halls, and so that when the session reconvenes, I'm going to say God's presence is there because
That's right.
we pray through. So I just think that's something that sometimes we look for big things that we can do. And those things are great, whether you're volunteering or whether you're donating or, writing, your senators, your state senators. But we can all pray. And that's something that doesn't take a lot of time. You don't have to leave your home, but if you want to, you certainly can. So I think that's just great encouragement that people would. And I pray that people will wake up and realize that's the least I can do. If I can't do anything else, I can pray. So,
That's right.
good. What encouragement would you give would you offer to Christians who are passionate about life but feel overwhelmed by politics?
Well, that's a great question. And I love that question. Because I think too often we put certain issues in a box and we label it as political. And for too long, I think too many people have been led to believe that Christians and people of faith shouldn't talk about or be involved with political issues.
Yeah.
So certainly that sentiment of feeling overwhelmed or burnt out by politics, is one we all can relate to. We all can feel that way. But what's important is that we remember what we're talking about today is not a political issue.
Yes.
This is not a political issue. This is a moral issue, and this is a human rights issue. And I think, labeling what are really moral issues or biblical issues as political is actually a strategy to silence Christians on the most important issues of our time. And there is absolutely no greater issue than abortion, than protecting innocent human life. And on the issues that matter most, it's the people of God who should be leading the way. It's Christians who have been given the truth. And not to speak is to speak, and not to act is to act. But God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And I think, as believers, we can demonstrate that our political engagement can look different from the way that the world does it.
Yeah.
We can do it in a way that is honoring to God and in a way that shows love to our neighbors. And that should include the least among us, preborn babies in the womb who deserve to be cherished and protected. And so it can be a challenging space to operate in. There's a lot of noise. It can, get very complicated or controversial. But our calling is to be salt and light. And what a great privilege we have to get to be that salt and light in our culture and in our state at this moment in history.
Okay, good. And so can you tell us again, how can listeners stay connected to Nebraska Family Alliance and take action?
Yeah, our website again, nebraskafamilyalliance.org. You can sign up for our emails. You can even get our text messages with urgent updates or prayer requests. And we make it easy for you to learn who your representatives are, how you can contact them, when things are happening, and you can help make your voice heard. So you can visit our website. And also you can find Nebraska Family Alliance on social media. We're providing some of those updates and information and ways that people can be engaged and pray with us and to make a difference for families and for life in Nebraska.
Nate, thank you so much for joining us again. And I just really appreciate your tireless work defending life, family, and freedom. And to our listeners, you can stay updated and get involved by visiting nebraskafamilyalliance.org. So that's all for today's episode of Life Matters. Thank you so much for joining us.
Life Matters is an educational outreach resource of Assure Women's Center in Omaha, Nebraska. To learn more about the ministry of Assure, visit firststeptolife.com. That's firststeptolife.com. There you can learn about the many services we provide, including how we come alongside abortion-minded mothers and empower women to choose life for her and her baby, as well as find our most current broadcasts and all of our past episodes. You can also find information on our website about how you can partner with us in the life-saving work of Assure. Through your generous support, we can continue to save babies in Nebraska while advancing the cause of life around the world. Thanks for listening to Life Matters. Join us again next week at the same time right here on BOT Radio Network.